on a divorce, right? The problem with this state is it is corrupt, and it's corrupt to its core. And if we don't confront this corruption, it won't end. This is smoke and mirrors. And if you want to get elected, which is what you told me, because you can't deal with the corruption now, well, it's dishonest. And when you have a chairman that sits on the family court committee who has family services, who the money from Title 4D goes into their pockets, think about that. And why don't we know where the Title 4D money is? Who's getting it? Now, I have information that came from the committee that says the GLAs are corrupt.
Mike, thank you for coming in, and thank you for testifying.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, how are you? Thank you.
I got a speaker. Can I give this feedback?
That would be great, yes, absolutely. Thank you.
I was expecting more people. I made 14 copies.
Sorry. So I will be giving you time signals up here, so you'll know how much time you have left.
I'll ignore it.
Okay.
Actually, I'm coming here because I have a solution to the problem. I don't have a complaint, so it might be
Can I ask
favorable to listen
which
to.
his name is? So I can-
I'm sorry, Richard Merritt.
Richard Merritt.
Richard Merritt. I wanted to start by saying that this particular book here is the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. As such, it is common law. Common law is the law of the land. It is because this book says so, this is the law, not because I say so or you say so. Having said that, this is about the common law grand jury, and that's for your indulgence. It was stolen from us in 1946. I don't know by who, but there were footnotes in the Code of Criminal Justice Procedure. And whoever made these footnotes said the common law grand jury is obsolete, which they can't do because the 5th and 7th Amendment are in the Bill of Rights. It belongs to all of us. They don't belong to the government. So what I'm asking for is for you people to reinstate that at no cost. The only thing I am asking is if you read U.S. versus Williams, which I've attached to your paperwork, the common law grand jury operated in this capacity years ago, prior to 1946, before it was stolen from us. By reinstating it, it costs you nothing. You have grand jury jury administrators currently working in all the counties. What they need to be done to them is to take them from the judicial system and get them working for the people exclusively, not controlled by the courts, which they are now. So I'm suggesting in the common law grand jury, and you can read this in U.S. versus Williams, it's the law. I don't make this stuff up. I also furnish you with Section 61 of the Magna Carta, which initiates the common law grand jury. And that's why the 7th Amendment says, and it's very, very important that you understand this, it says, no fact tried by a jury. Not no law, no fact tried by a jury can be otherwise re-examined in any court in the United States. That's very important. The Supreme Court can't overturn it, a judge can't overturn it, the governor can't overturn it. The people own this country, and the people are going to determine it. So if the people in family courts go to the jury administrators and they try to resolve an issue, they have 40 days to do that. And if this is explained to them and they don't do it, that's turned over to the grand jury. And they're at the mercy of the grand jury at that particular point in time. So I'm suggesting to you, I'm only a taxpayer, a little lonely taxpayer, but I'm sick of paying taxes to a government that's out of control, state and federal. So I'm asking you, please consider this carefully. It costs nothing. And you're giving it to the people. The fact that you guys came here tells me you cared. So I'm suggesting to you that if you care enough, please read this, please try to understand this, and then turn it over to the people. If I'm sitting on a jury, or I'm an administrator, whatever the case may be, I'm concerned about my neighbor. It's not about money. Okay? The rest of it is in there, in the paperwork, but I did wanted to tell you that this is nothing new. It's in the law. Okay? You have to do nothing. Assign it to them, okay, through the legislature if you'd like, if necessary. But I'm recommending you do that. As a matter of fact, from one person, I'm demanding you do it, because it's mine. Common law jury is mine. Everyone's here. It's yours. Why do you want to throw it away? Give it to the people to decide. No money's being made. Isn't that a good idea? Thank you for listening to me. I rest my case.
Thank you for coming in, appreciate
Thank you
that.
so much.
And these two seats right there. Right at the table. Thank you.
So I'm gonna just have a little time card, so I'll count down. 3 minutes, yeah.
Right, that's just so
It's the
you know,
countdown.
you're
My name is Jacob Barry. I'm from Nashua, New Hampshire, and I'm here today because I'm voicing my complaint against the New Hampshire judicial system and the family court system. It has absolutely destroyed my family. Judges have conspired to take my brother and my mom's fourth child away. I have not seen my 3 siblings in 4 years. They are alienated because they are afraid of the abuser, who the court supports and condones. The court, on multiple occasions, several trials, many hearings, has been presented with overwhelming evidence of the abuse that Mr. Haley, her former husband, my former stepfather, has inflicted upon my family, my pets, his previous wives, his at the time current wife, and the court chose to dismiss all of that evidence and award custody to the man who is molesting my 25-year-old sister, who broke and shattered and disfigured my jaw, who stole every penny my mother ever earned in her entire life, who took away the home that she worked all her life to provide to her children. But more than that, the court has taken my family away from me. The court has shattered the possibility of my family reuniting. The court has separated me from my siblings and inflicted hatred and harassment onto a loving, nurturing, protecting mother who all she ever did was try to make someone recognize the impact of what that man had done to her children. The FBI, DCYF, the Nashua Police, the courts, they are all aware and they're all turning their heads for profit. And I'm standing up against that. And that is all I have to say.
Thank you. How old are you?
20.
And Judge Kelly, I have submitted many letters to you personally, so you know my story. And I hope you understand that it's not okay what's happening with Title 4D money. You have no right to destroy a family or to make one parent a custodial and non-custodial parent. It's wrong. Our children are suffering. They're going to be into heroin. They're numbing their feelings. They're drinking. Our whole family has been destroyed. And I was a loving, protective mom who brought the truth to the court expecting to be protected. I have no way to protect my child. And you, Judge Kelly, have said to me there's nothing that I could do. Let me assure you, Judge Kelly, I'm going to hold you to those words. There is something that you can do. You can call these judges into your chambers. You are the administrative judge of the circuit courts. You are ultimately responsible for what occurs in those courtrooms. Extortion, false arrests, children being taken away for false allegations with no evidence, denial of due process, denial of evidentiary hearings. This is not okay. Do you understand me? These are my children that I love. I love them more than anything. I have spent my life. I am now homeless. My son and I are homeless because the state of New Hampshire has attached my wages completely as high as they can. And to punish me further for speaking out, they have made sure that I am the only parent who has to contribute to $740 a month in health insurance to cover the minor child. How do you expect me to live? I've never done anything wrong. I wouldn't even as much as take a paper clip or harm anyone.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you.
Okay.
So, Brittany, I'm going to give you time, Steve, so you know how much time is left.
Okay, all right, I appreciate that. My name is Greg Fedor. I'm here today because originally I was divorced in 2012. Later in 2013, my former spouse came up on drug charges, and that's when the problems with the family court began. Initially, there was a situation where I was awarded custody, and then because I had to work and take care of my children, I used daycare, and then because of that, my time with children was reduced to even less than the previous time that I had in the original divorce agreement. And this is a problem with the family court that I see. There's no accountability, there's no structure, there's no grievance committee to redress the problems with the family court. I later had issues with the family court in regards to home sale because the home was supposed to be sold. There was no specific laws, or the judge apparently didn't follow any specific laws about the court situation with the house. And now the house is in foreclosure, and I'm looking at a $60,000 loss in regards to that, and there's been no remedy from the family court on this issue. In fact, they wanted to throw me in jail for the inability to help my former spouse to pay or refinance the house, even though in the divorce agreement it specifically spelled out she was to remove my name from the mortgage by January 1st, 2014. Now we're in early 2016 and we're having this issue. This is a problem with the family court. I've been grieved many times. I've had contempt of courts for protecting my children, yet the family court never looked at the actual children to find out what their current situations were, what their grades in school were like, or to find out how they were coping with the stresses of being under this situation. And the fact that the court ignored the felony drug case and poo-pooed it, or basically made it so it wasn't an issue for the family court. And that's a real serious problem. We have a serious drug problem in this state and across the country, and the family court should be addressing this and making sure that children are safe in all counts. And anytime there's a felony drug situation, the children should be removed from that home and given to a parent that's able, capable, and able to take care of the children like I was. And that's the real problem with what we have going on in the family court is there's no redress, and children are being put in harm's way because of the drug problem, and the family court does not seem to want to properly address this situation. And again, I thank you for your time. I appreciate this, and hopefully we can make some positive changes that protect children in light of all these dangerous situations that are under.
Go straight ahead.
Thank you. So John, I'll give you a signal so we know how much time you have.
Thank you. My name is John Kelly. I went through my divorce in 2002, so I've had plenty of time to think about the nature of the family court system as well as positive solutions to try to fix problems that I saw and experienced. First of all, I'll tell you that I was lucky. All I lost were my life savings. Afterwards, I've talked to lots of people who lost their children, who lost their health, who lost their jobs. All I lost were my life savings, although I did lose my faith in the court system, and that used to have some value. So for a number of years, I've been thinking about what the court system should be doing to try to regain public confidence. And I have 4 things that I'd ask you to think about. And one is to address the issue of gender bias. One of the lawyers I consulted said, the first thing you need to change is your attitude. You need to learn to accept that you are not going to be treated fairly because you are the wrong gender. Another thing I'd like to see the court address is perjury. I would like the courts to take perjury seriously. It is a crime. I'd like to see it treated as a crime. Perjury should never be a strategy for family court. A third is a system that encourages people to fight over children. It's bad for the courts, it's bad for the taxpayers who fund the courts, and it's bad for the children. It's good for one group of people. It's good for lawyers who promote the fighting. But if New Hampshire had a rebuttable presumption of shared parenting as a statute, we could begin to solve that problem. The third one is specific to my issue. I would like the courts to take prenuptial agreements seriously. Mine was not taken seriously because it wasn't written down. Mark Twain once said, an oral contract isn't worth the paper it's written on. And that's a great line, but I wish the courts would listen not to a 19th century comedian, but rather to other legal precedent, which says in other cases that an oral contract like mine, documented by evidence and witness testimony, is legitimate. My final point is also about prenuptial agreements. If we as a society made prenuptial agreements a part of the marriage license process, we would avoid a lot of bitterness and strife because people would make these decisions while they still care about fairness and they still care about each other.
Excellent.
Thank you.
You've got written testimony?
Written and
Excellent.
slightly expanded.
Okay, so we'll make sure everybody gets it. Thank you.
Who are we?
I will be giving you time signals so you know how much time you have left.
Okay, my name is Thomas McCarthy. I'm a resident of New Hampshire, and I know time is short. I've been in the family court system since September 2009. I've yet to have any kind of relationship with our daughter in 7 years. I've been before the Children and Family Law Committee dozens of times. At the State House, wrote to Judge Kelly many times, and I just wish I read this Constitution book, and it has no part in the family court system whatsoever. It's turned into an employment line for lawyers. The doctrine in New Hampshire, 80% of the cases in court is family related. I don't see how, I can see protection of children is the most important thing. But when that protection falls into lawyers' hands, GALs, judges, it says the total opposite here. I know what's best for our child. No one loves her, protects her, cares for her welfare more than I do or ever will. Yet I can't see her. That's okay. More importantly, she can't see me. She doesn't have her dad in her life. I know you've heard from domestic violence experts. I happen to be one of those. I grew up in a house, the neighborhood. I understand the epidemic. Something had to be done. With all great intentions, let's protect women and children. No one needs protection from me. No one ever did. Yet, our little girl lost her father in September 2009. Had a nervous breakdown, was on suicide watch for 3 years because all she wanted to do was have her father. I've given testimony, evidence, time and time again before the courts. Not one thing has changed. 2 counts of contempt over the last 3 years. You're talking to an individual who pledged allegiance to the flag, and every day I heard with liberty and justice for all, which separated us from everybody else. You need to add for those who can afford it. And please, if you want to fix family court, incorporate the Constitution of this state back into it where evidence is needed to prove that someone's neglectful or harmful to their own child. I'm just glad that nobody really makes too much money off of this. It's become a $50 billion a year business, and it crushes children. And it may not be your child, but I can tell you all, I know of hundreds and hundreds of people in this state they can't be here today because some of them decided to light themselves on fire instead because they couldn't take it. After they served this country, they'll take bullets for the flag, and they come home and they gotta deal with this nonsense, and that's all it is, nonsense. Everything in here says I have the right to be with my child, but the 38 volumes of family law contradict everything in this book. I thank you for your time. I love you, Katie.
Thank you.
If you're ever tested, 4 copies. So can I have you time see, so you know how you're doing on
Just don't start my time calling. Thank you guys.
I won't do that. When you get ready to start, just go ahead.
My name is Ed Bryant. I live in Marlborough, New Hampshire. I've lived in Cheshire County for about 20 years. I experienced a divorce and a custody situation 5 years ago. Pardon my bluntness, but how I see it, my daughter was kidnapped 5 years ago on her birthday. I dropped her off to daycare with last words being presents, cake, and friends. I showed up at 4 o'clock to pick her up. Apparently an ex parte motion had been filed during the daytime. I was not notified. There was no clues given that this was taking place. I understand the purpose of an ex parte, imminent danger. It was basically like some dice were rolled and a fictitious thing came up that I was at flight risk. I lived in my house for 18 years. I have 2 other children. I'm a small business owner. I was going nowhere. This came into effect, and in my opinion, is when a lawyer was given to her pro bono from the Women's Crisis Center, which is now known as the Monadnock Center for Violence Prevention. I'm not here to speak badly of my ex-wife. In fact, her and I are actually very good friends at this point. My daughter, after waiting 2 years to get a court date, when I did, I went in, I had a guardian ad litem fee increases denied. She had 7 pages of mythical lies. The only sanction that was given to the guardian ad litem was her fee increases were denied. Perjury, all that went unnoticed. Several of the things that I had brought up to her attention was that my ex had left me for a man that was a known abuser, was a drug dealer, just a really bad person. 2 days before a final court hearing, frankly, there had been 5 administrative delays previous to that. That man had dumped Tabasco sauce into my daughter's mouth. And my ex had called me and basically said, I've thrown him out. I thanked her, didn't want to yell, scream, anything like that. It's written in my orders that she's not to have contact with this person. I only have a few seconds left. I hope you'll be interested to read some of my testimony. I've made some common sense solutions. Just to tell you on the other side of that, my ex and I are very good friends. My daughter is one student of the month the last 3 months in a row. She benefits from having a fit father and mother in her life. And I wish everybody's situation could end like that. Unfortunately, it can't always be that way. Thank you.
How did you get how much time do you get with your daughter now?
It's, the schedule is 5 days, 2 days, and it alternates. So I have her 1 week and
Was that made by the court, or was that made by communication between you and the mother of your child?
That was the final orders on a 50-50 arrangement that was implemented. Frankly, now, mother and I, today is my day. Mom's picking her up. We have that level of communication, and we do what's best for our child.
Thank you.
She was. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kevin Foster.
So Kevin, I'm going to give you time signals so you'll know how you're counting down on your time.
Yes.
Okay.
Brief. Married for 18 years. The divorce proceedings started in 2011 out of Rockingham County. It was a false allegation at that point in time that pushed the presumption away from a shared parenting situation into a scenario where now it was in my children's best interest to not have me in the house. I would endure for 5 years, racking up a total of 263 hours in civil, criminal, marital courts. I watched, probably the darkest moment was in November 11th or November 12th. It was the day after Veterans Day in 2011 when my mother in Florida received a call from my 4 children explaining that they were living in a car in sub-zero weather in Epping and that they had no money, they were homeless, and so on and so forth. That right there was probably the darkest moment. For every day, for 720 days, I wrote on my hand with a Sharpie to remind me that today was another day on the chart where I did not get to see my 4 children who ranged in age from 15 to 9. Long story short, when I had to go through all the court proceedings, the kids were pulled away from their mother and split into 2 separate foster homes. It was only supposed to be for 2 weeks. It ended up being 6 months. I fought like hell because I'm not going out like that as a dad. I have custody of my 3 minor at this point in time. It took 2 years to get over the parental alienation that my children had endured for that 2-year period of not being with them.
and I hold the system accountable for that. That is a major fail and a major escape in the system itself, because all it takes is a false allegation, and it wouldn't be the last, it would be the first of many, that would set everything in motion. I now have well-adjusted children that go to school, go to medical care, and I'm thankful to God that nothing terrible or tragic happened to my children in that time period when I could not do anything about it but sit there and watch and go through the system. I have a $105,000 bill from the Office of Cost Containment for the Child and Family Service workers for DCYF. Although I am grateful that DCYF did act as the vetting force in helping me to get reunified with my kids, but the glory goes to God on that, because my kids, as I found out later on when I was reunited with them, were living in heroin houses, were being decoys for shoplifting, and many, many other things. And so I feel that the system has failed on a multitude of levels, but I cannot detail in obviously the time that I have to document the whole 5-year ride. But my kids have a happy story right now. Thank you.
Great, thank you for coming. Do you have any written testimony you want to show us?
I can prepare one for you. Okay, that
Would
was
you submit that? That would be
Yes, sir.
awesome. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. So Nick, that'll give you time, so you can know how we're counting down for your time.
Okay,
Great, thank you.
sure, yeah. Well, thank you for hearing me, and I appreciate your time very much. I'll get right to it, stay within 3 minutes. My name is Nicholas Haas. I live in Alexandria, New Hampshire. I was divorced in 2007. Before I share a little bit about that, I want to say that the New Hampshire Supreme Court says that children do best when both parents have a stable and meaningful involvement in their lives. If you go through the child impact seminar in the state, they promote that. They say that we should be, co-parenting better and that we should be sharing the children. If you look at New Hampshire RSA 461A, the parental rights and responsibilities, A2 and A6, they both promote it and they both speak to it. In fact, every counselor, every parenting coach, every family therapist out there will tell you that shared parenting is the way to go. It's in the best interest of the kids. So if shared parenting is in the best interest of the kids, why isn't New Hampshire? Why aren't the family courts in New Hampshire enforcing that? In our state, we don't have a statutory preference for shared parenting, so it's not enforced. There's no statutory requirement for shared parenting. I think that we're promoting the fighting in the courts because the courts assign anything less than 50% of the time as a non-custodial parent. That promotes two people fighting for who gets to be the custodial parent, which isn't what we think we really want to do, right? It kind of creates the illusion that unless you are the custodial parents, you're less legally stable than the other. So we're putting the kids in the middle by doing that, and it's not accurate. The court shouldn't be a referee for the back and forth fighting. They should be enforcing the laws. If parents were starting on equal footing in their court hearings, there would be no prize to be won. The kids wouldn't be viewed as a prize. I would further argue that there are a lot of really good parents out there that aren't seeing their children. We should be focused on the ones that are in trouble out there, and that would